Thank you, Dr. Sampath, for giving this great opportunity to present my paper. And Dr. Sampath is known for organizing fantastic and classic and timely bound conferences around the world. He's been conducting conferences since I know myself when I was first in college in the 1980 onwards. Thank you, Dr. Sampath, for organizing this conference. And once again, um, I'm going to take a different turn on the topic, what originally was given by Dr. Sampath. I'm trying to do on the weaponization of a migration, examining migration as a tool of a political warfare by Belarus. Belarus, officially the Republic of Belarus, and historically Belarusia, is a landlocked country in Eastern Europe. It is bordered by Russia to the east and the northeast, Ukraine to the south, Poland to the west, and Lithuania and Latvia to the northwest, covering an area of 80,000 square miles approximately, and with a population of 9.3 million Belarus. And Belarus is the 13th largest and the 20th most populous country in Europe. The country is administratively divided into 7 regions. Minsk is the capital and largest city. Just a small brief about what is Belarus. Many of them may not know it's actually closer to the Russia, right? And the 67-year-old Alexander Lukashenko has served as the first president of Belarus since the establishment of the office on 20th July 1994. Before his political career, Lukashenko worked as a director of a state farm and served in the Soviet border troops and in the erstwhile Soviet Union army. Lukashenko continued state ownership of key industries in Belarus after the dissolution of the Soviet Union and retained important Soviet-era symbolism, which can be seen in the coat of arms and the national flag of Belarus, adopted following a controversial 1995 referendum, which were based on the symbols of a Belarusian SSR. Following the same referendum, Lukashenko was given more power with the ability to dismiss the Supreme Soviet of Belarus, and another referendum in 1996 allowed Lukashenko to further consolidate power. The Russian language was also given the same status as a Belarusian, and economic ties with Russia were strengthened, which furthermore led to the creation of a union state with Russia, which allows Belarusians to freely travel to work and study in Russia, and vice versa. However, relations with Russia have not always run smoothly under his tenure, such as during milk wars. Lukashenko heads an authoritarian government and has often been referred to by media outlets as Europe's last dictator. Elections are not considered to be free and fair by international monitors. Opponents of the regime are repressed, and the media is not free, leading to sanctions on Lukashenko and other Belarusian officials being imposed. Alexander Lukashenko is in power since 1994, won a presidential election last year with 80.23% of the votes, according to election officials and reported by the BBC. However, result has been contested by opposition leaders, and the European Union has said the vote was neither free nor fair. Lukashenko has denied these allegations. Protests emerged in the aftermath of the election when citizens contesting its outcome clashed with the Belarusian forces. The election and the violent response to protests that followed led the European Union to implement sanctions in 2020 against the Belarusian KGB officials, as well as Lukashenko and his son. On Sunday, May 23rd, 2021, many of you might recall this incident. Ryanair flight FR 4978 was traveling from the Greek capital Athens to Vilnius in Lithuania. It made an abrupt change course of Belarus and some 6 miles from Lithuanian border. Ryanair plane was forced to land in the Belarusian capital Minsk following a bomb threat, which later proved to be false. Belarus detained opponent journalist Roman and his girlfriend Sofia Sapagova, who were on board the flight from Greece to Lithuania. The move has been widely condemned by the West, with the US President Joe Biden said, "My team will develop appropriate options to hold accountable those responsible." On May 23rd this year, Gitanas Nausėda, president of Lithuania, tweeted that the Belarus actions as a state terrorism, and the airspace over Belarus should be recognized as unsafe, and a Belarusian aircraft should not be accepted at European airports. As the West expressed outrage at Belarus hijacking of a Ryanair plane, Russia defended Belarus and described the uproar in the US and Europe as shocking and accused the West of having a double standards. Russia has been steadily increasing its power influence over its neighbor Belarus, but the country's leaders like the President Vladimir Putin and President Alexander Lukashenko are somewhat uncomfortable allies. It is arguable that any alliance is fragile at best and born out of necessity. For Belarus, Russia is a powerful economic and a political partner and a source of support, having backed Lukashenko leadership, which is now in its 27th year. For Russia, Belarus offers an opportunity to exert economic and political influence in the region and is a convenient bulwark against what it sees as the European encroachment upon its former territories, such as Ukraine. Putin is known to favor stability and predictability, and as such, a long-standing leader like Lukashenko in power, who can potentially be more easily influenced, is favored over a regime change. President Putin leverage over Lukashenko strengthened recently when last September, Putin gave Belarus a $1.5 billion loan and agreed to boost the trade. The move was widely seen as a gesture of support for Lukashenko following weeks of mass protests demanding his resignation after he won an election which the opposition said was rigged. Lukashenko denied these allegations. On May 25th, 2021, Kremlin dismissed any suggestion that Russia was involved in the forced landing of a Ryanair plane, saying such a notion was the result of an anti-Russian sentiment. Speaking to reporters on a conference call, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Moscow was unduly accused of everything these days. Reuters reported that, and that critics had let their hatred of Russia affect their judgment. In a televised interview on June 14th, Lithuania President Gitanas Nausėda warned that Belarus is losing its last element of independence and could be used in the hands of Russians as a weapon for aggressive activities towards NATO allies. On June 24th, 2021, European Union has imposed sanctions on key sectors of the Belarusian economy and major revenue sources for the regime authoritarian ruler Alexander Lukashenko, including potash fertilizer exports, the tobacco industry, petroleum and petrochemical products, following the forced diversion of passenger flight to Minsk on May 23, 2021, that allowed for the arrest of the dissident journalist and his girlfriend. On June 28, 2021, the Belarusian Foreign Ministry announced on a Facebook posting that Minsk had recalled the permanent representative to the European Union for consultation and those responsible for the sanctions, which target key sectors of the Belarusian economy and major revenue sources for the regime of Alexander Lukashenko would be banned from entering Belarus. Belarus Foreign Ministry accused the European Union of using sanctions as a tool to impose pressure on the sovereign and independent state. The ministry also said Minsk is also suspending its participation in the Eastern Partnership Program, which seeks a closer cooperation between European Union and 6 former Soviet republics like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. On the 22nd, 2021 in Brest, The city is in the southwest of Belarus on the Polish border. Lukashenko said Belarus has been at war for a long time. And over the past year, we have experienced the most advanced hybrid warfare technologies. So that's what I'm coming up with now for what is hybrid warfare, right? In an interview to June 27, 2021 with the popular Baltic news portal Delphi, Lithuania's Interior Minister Agne Bayatait said Belarusian officials were behind the surge in the migrants this year into Baltic, calling it is a well-organized plan. Bayatait said the immigrants are paying as much as $15,000 to be transported over to the border. We really have the evidence of the involvement of a Belarusian border guards in this process. This is a fact. This is an organized activity, a certain scheme, well-organized plan. This is a lot of money, she said. More than 550 people have been caught so far this year illegally entering Lithuania from neighboring Belarus, more than 7 times the figure for all of 2020 and more than 12 times the number for 2019. Iraqi nationals are the largest group of migrants entering Lithuania from Belarus, followed by Iranians, Syrian, and Belarusians. Bayatait called Belarusian government's involvement as a form of hybrid warfare. This is obviously profitable crime involving the regime and the officials themselves, she said. On June 29, 2021, this year, Nabila Masali, spokeswoman for European Union Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell, said Minsk's decision to suspend its participation in the Eastern Partnership framework serves only to further isolate Belarus and is yet another demonstration of the regime disregard for the Belarusian people. The European Union remains open to continue working with the Belarusian people within the framework and will continue to support the Belarusian people and civil society as well as the democratic aspirations. Regarding the Belarusian authorities, moved to request that the European Union invite to Minsk is recalled to Belarus for consultations, Marceli said that keeping channels of communication open is crucial in times of a crisis. This has always been our intention. Minsk has also started to procedure to suspend the readmission agreement between the European Union and Belarus. The Belarus Foreign Ministry said, adding that such a move would negatively affect the cooperation with the European Union in terms of the fight against illegal migration and organized crime. It's kind of a joke, actually, it is. But Masrali refuted the ministry claims, saying the suspension would not automatically affect the visa regime between Minsk and Brussels, which she said was crucial for preserving personal links between European Union and Belarusian citizens. The decision to suspend readmission agreement does not imply the automatic suspension of a visa facilitation agreement, which is called VFA, between European Union, Belarus, according to suspension article in the VFA, Masali said. It should be reminded that the visa facilitation agreement is one of the most important tools that we have to maintain strong people-to-people links between the European Union and the Belarusian people. This remains a core objective for the European Union, she said. The actions of the Lukashenko regime are also isolating a country, but we are doing everything we can for the Belarusian people not to be isolated too. In this context, you can see an example of India and Pakistan. Although India and Pakistan are belligerent countries, they are always in a quarrel and a fighting. We also had 3 major warfares between us. But however, the people-to-people connections are very, very important. My learned friend, Attorney Koshi, is also here on the line. I can see him. Our best friend when we were studying in a law school in New York was Asif from Pakistan, son of Mayor of Karachi. So this is how we build the peace between the people. Then let me, that is out of the topic. So I go back to a Belarusian. The Belarusian Foreign Ministry said that head of the European Union delegation to Belarus, Dirk Sebel, was summoned at the ministry to inform him of the moves. The European Union, the United States, Britain, and Canada have previously slapped sanctions on Belarus over the diversion of a Ryanair flight, including asset freezes and visa bans imposed against dozens of officials, lawmakers, and ministers from Lukashenko administration and his family members, as well as Belarusian entities. The European Union also denied permission to any aircraft operated by Belarusian air carriers to land in, take off from, or overfly European Union territories. In August 2021, several videos released by the government of Latvia and Lithuania, they show thousands of people, most of them from Iraq, illegally entering the European Union in the last several weeks, with Belarusian officials appearing to shepherd them along. So one of the video actually shows the group of people walks tentatively forward, escorted by Belarusian guards in a riot gear. Then the guards yell, "Go!" Physically pushing them, those who seem reluctant to take further steps. These are the videos are available on YouTube, or you can just Google, you can see them. In Lithuania, more than 4,000 people have entered the country this way, more than 500 times the figure for all of last year. The Latvia Interior Minister Marja Gorbachev declared that Belarus is weaponizing international migration and making a special path for irregular migration to the border of the Baltic states like Lithuania and Latvia. This is not any sort of a spontaneous emergence of a migration trial to our countries. This is specifically directed action by the government of Belarus as perhaps a way to have a revenge on the European Union for the sanctions that were imposed after the plane was hijacked. Belarus invites Iraqis to come to as a tourist, then sends them into the European Union, according to Lithuanian officials. The newer arrivals booked a flight from Baghdad to Minsk, got a tourist visa in their passport on arrival at the airport, then were helped by Belarusian officials to illegally cross the European border. Large number of people began crossing into the European Union every night. Recently, Lithuania reinforced its border with the barbed wire and extra guards, some sent from European Union and other countries too. Both Latvia and Lithuania also declared state of emergency on their Belarusian border, which allows them to prevent people from entering and filing for asylum claims. Lithuania Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis says this should not just be concern for Belarus or European Union, but for the whole democratic world, which he says needs to wake up. If Lithuania and Latvia hadn't blocked the Belarusian route, it could be scaled and it could be used against anybody because it is extremely, extremely easy. You just need a country or a rogue state that just stops the control of the border. To add to that, if it offers a help for a people to go to the border that it stops controlling, you have a hybrid attack. Minsk is allegedly also channeling people to Poland, and Estonia, Latvia, and Poland have called the United Nations Security Council to take up the issue. If the situation isn't resolved, they have agreed to raise it as an Article 4 security threat with NATO, 1 degree below, summoning all allies to come to their mutual defense. You might have seen when this right now, when before United States was vacating from Iraq, and the NATO was almost raised the Article 5. Article 5, which allows all the NATO member countries join together, go and pound the country which is violating the NATO rules. But that's what it is. But here, these 3 countries actually wanted to raise Article 4. They are not going to the 5 yet. And on September 10th, the Zapat 2021 or West 2021, strategic exercise. This is just like recently India just conducted some last 2 weeks back called Malabar 2021, which had Australia and United States, Japan. It's like we call them a quad countries. So they actually did it in a Kerala coast in a Malabar, the exercise. The same thing in West 2021, the strategy exercise took place in 4 training grounds in Belarus and 9 in Russia. And some 200,000 soldiers participated in total. That was the truth, but according to the information from Minsk, only 12,800 soldiers, including 2,500 from Russia and 50 from Kazakhstan, involved in the first part, which took place in the Belarusian territory. On October 17th, just a week ago, French ambassador to Belarus, Nicolas de Castro, was forced to leave Minsk by the regime. The ambassador didn't present the credentials to Lukashenko and was vocal about human rights abuse. According to Brian Whitmer, the non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council Euro-Russia Center, says Lukashenko openly hostile stance represents a major departure from recent Belarusian foreign policy. Not so long ago, the Belarus dictator went out of his way to reassure neighboring countries that they had nothing to fear Minsk. Following Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea and armed intervention in the eastern Ukraine, Donbas region, Lukashenko said he would never allow Belarusian territory to be used to attack another state. In the run-up of a joint Russian-Belarusian Zapad 2017 military exercise, he repeatedly pledged to his neighbors that the drills would not become a platform for mischief. Belarus even invited observers from 7 countries like Ukraine, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Sweden, and Norway, as well as representatives from the United Nations, the OSCE, NATO, and also from the Red Cross to monitor the portion of a Zapad 2017 exercise that was taking place in a Belarusian territory. This accommodating attitude changed dramatically following last year's flawed Belarusian president's election and a brutal crackdown on a protest that ensued. With Lukashenko internationally isolated and increasingly dependent on Vladimir Putin's Russia, the Minsk strongman is now mimicking the Kremlin's leader's confrontational stance. Lukashenko's changing tone could have serious implications for regional security, with the September Zapad 2021 military exercise involving Russian and Belarusian forces. The following summer season promises to be tense period on Europe Eastern Front. As we speak now, just a day before, European Union called for an emergency summit, and the European Union president used very strong word to condemn Belarusian authorities and Lukashenko. And just we received the message saying Poland also joined with Latvia and Lithuania to declare state of emergency. So that's the kind of world we are living in now. Thank you, Dr. Sampath, once again for allowing me to present this paper in successful second international conference on a conflict and resolution. Thank you, sir.